Yeah, not gonna lie, when you said, can we like record on Monday? I was also like, yeah, like I can't.
No, apparently
right
Priya
now.
was like also down. So.
Yeah, we were up till 4 a.m. and I was like, kill me. And then I was like, okay, I'll get up at 7 and continue studying. And then when you sent that message, I was like, okay, thank God.
But yeah, like Saturday night, we were up so late. Like all three of us.
Yeah, we're supposed to record on Sunday.
Yeah, I just like looked at the clock and I looked at my mental state and I was like, I can't. I felt so bad, but I was like, I actually can't.
No, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. So now we're here recording on a Monday morning. Yeah. Well, welcome back to Get the Check. It's 7:30 a.m. on a Monday morning, but we never miss an episode for you guys. So I'm Maya.
I'm Annika.
I'm Priya. And today we have a fun lineup. We're going to be going into the AI bubble and whether or not we're in an AI bubble given the release of GPT-5 and an MIT study that said 95% of GenAI pilots at companies are failing because they are not providing positive returns. And then second, we're going to go into an update on the Russia and Ukraine war. Trump met with Putin back in Anchorage, Alaska to potentially push Russia towards a ceasefire. That didn't happen, and we're going to go over what came out of that meeting. And then we have a fun Get the Check segment for you. 8 Sleep just raised $100 million to accelerate development of their AI sleep agent and their AI roadmap. So yeah, should we get into it?
Yeah, so this entire conversation about an AI bubble and also like the entire media just crashing out about if the bubble's gonna burst started with Sam Altman when he made a comment to The Verge and basically said that we're in an AI bubble similar to the .com bubble. He specifically said when bubbles happen, smart people get overexcited about a kernel of truth, and that his opinion is that people are overexcited about AI.
Yeah, he also said that they totally screwed up GPT-5 and started plugging GPT-6,
yeah,
which I feel like didn't make people have like a lot of confidence
in GPT-6.
Or 5. Like, I feel like in general, in AI progress. I think like in AI progress in general.
I was honestly really surprised that he even said that or like implied we're in a bubble. Like, I just assume it's like not advantageous for him to do that.
No, that's totally fair.
But maybe he doesn't care.
Well, okay, his comment was like, I think we're in an AI bubble, but I don't think that we're not providing value.
Yeah.
We can go into like the .com bubble and kind of the differences between what we're seeing today versus what we were seeing 20 years ago.
Yeah, because people reference it a lot, but then they don't like actually go into like exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I guess to start with what a bubble is, it's usually defined as like a period where companies, investors, and people would just pour a ton of money into a sector. Traditionally, it's been like a tech sector, and it's like very specific. So it'll be like cloud or like crypto. And then this leads to an unsustainable market rise and then increased speculation, which has like a bunch of other results.
Yeah. And the reason why people compare the AI bubble closely to the .com bubble is because back in the 90s, when the internet got created, a bunch of different companies were created with like obviously the .com name. And I think what's triggered it was that Netscape went public. They were like very unsustainable. They were an unsustainable company, but everyone invested in it, and like the price, I think 2 to 3x, which for an IPO at that time was like unheard of. And so that caused like more companies to go IPO in public, but people were not looking at like their balance sheets. They weren't looking at if like they were making enough revenue, and a lot of them weren't making any revenue. And so that led to many public investors investing in these like companies and not getting any returns. And then at some point that's going to collapse in front of you.
Yeah. And like even the public equities in the market at the time, what we're seeing right now is like the top 10 companies in the S&P 500 higher valued than they were back then at like the peak as well. There is like this huge consolidation of like the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500, which today are like all tech stocks, because even then, if you looked at like the top 10 companies, it wasn't fully concentrated to the tech sector the way that it is today. And you have like Nvidia propping up the entire market.
Yeah. And so analysts are, I feel like, debating back and forth of like, is this just like how the times are going to be like now versus, or is this like more indicative of a bubble happening? Because if you look at like the 4 horsemen, which is like the .com's era of like the Mag 7, which is Intel, Microsoft, Cisco, and Qualcomm, each of them achieved like crazy returns, with specifically Qualcomm and Cisco seeing gains of 7,000 and 9,000% respectively, which is crazy.
Year?
Not in a year, like over the course of like 7 years, but like
9,000%.
That's crazy.
But it's like way more than what you're seeing with like Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and Google. So like, yes, the S&P was like less weighted towards those companies, but those companies individually were seeing way more returns at the like height of their of the bubble popping. Is like the S&P being re-weighted towards these stocks like that bad of a signal? Or I guess it's like one signal, but it's like not a super descriptive signal of the entire market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think like part of it is just like the actual balance sheet of the company, and like if like the PE ratios that these companies have are actually worth that. That's probably a better comparison if we were to get into it than like just looking at the overall weighting.
Yeah. I mean, even Microsoft itself like experienced 17% revenue growth year over year, which is due to a 31% increase in their Azure platform. And that's obviously due to AI development. So you're actually seeing like them make more profits and warrant their growth.
Yeah. And then the other part of it on that point is that we are seeing companies have a lot more revenue and like tangible demand today than they did during the .com bubble, just because like the internet didn't exist. Like it wasn't really a thing, and it wasn't heavily used the way it is today. Versus AI, there's like clear demand for it. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was like the infrastructure parallel between the .com bubble and now, because back then they had to like build out all of telecom infrastructure because all of that didn't really exist yet. And so all of the like fiber optic cables that are like in the ground under the ocean, like all of those things, the development of that happened during that time. And that basically laid the foundation for what the internet is today, to like, so we have things like streaming. But at that time in like the early 2000s, the demand didn't materialize fast enough for how much money they put into it. And so they had all of this infrastructure and they were like, well, now we don't have any demand for it. And so that's one of the reasons that everything, like it there's a bunch of reasons, but it caused everything to come tumbling down. And eventually long term it was helpful, but I feel like we're very much seeing that with like data centers right now. So there's like similarities in the way of like we're building fast, we're seeing something that we need, but I think the difference is we do actually have demand for it right now, or so we think.
But I do think like with the demand thing, like I was reading one analyst report talking about how like a lot of demand has to do with like user numbers and things like that, right? And when you look at like ChatGPT, like the amount of users it could get in a short time was like unprecedented, but the bar for entry for someone to become a ChatGPT user is also like extremely low, versus at the time of the rise of the internet, like most people had to go out and buy computers for like a couple $1,000s, and there was like a much more of a learning curve. I've seen like some analysts argue that the way demand gets measured, which is basically like users roughly, is like not actually a good measure of demand, because like it's possible that we have like, or I guess it's a good measure of demand, but it's not a good measure of ROI, because it's possible we have like demand for AI, but then, and like we'll get into this more later, like the ROI isn't there, and then it's like still a bubble. It's just gonna burst for like ROI reasons versus demand reasons.
I feel like they go super hand in hand with each other, because like the entire thing is we need AI to do what everyone's saying it's gonna do, and if it doesn't do that, then like none of it's gonna like end up materializing.
I think like a lot of tools like Lovable, for example, like the way that they're sold as like, oh, it's like a one shot to like creating an app or something, even if you're non-technical. Like I'm non-technical, and like I honestly don't feel that way when I use them. And if we just think about like something so simple like, oh, the other day we built our website, like we use Squarespace. Like I'm not saying that there's like no AI tools that are helpful for those things, but we're still going and using the same website we would have used like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Or 3 years ago.
Literally for our college consulting club, we use Squarespace to build it, and we're building it the exact same way right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good segue into the MIT report, because it kind of argues something similar, which is 95% of organizations are getting zero return on the $30 to $40 billion in an enterprise investment into GenAI. So they went and they conducted this study where they interviewed, I think, 150 different executives at different Fortune 500 companies to ask, hey, what have you invested in? Why have you invested in it? And like, what are the returns that you see? And what are the patterns and trends you're recognizing? Then they compiled it into this report, and then the media went a little crazy after seeing this, because they were like, oh, maybe AI is not providing like the enterprise value that we thought it would maybe a couple of years ago when the idea of agentic AI came out.
Yeah, people were crashing out about this study on the internet. I don't know. It honestly isn't that surprising to me, especially when you're looking at like the specific group that they looked at of the Fortune 500. Because when you think of like these huge companies, AI adoption is going to be way slower. They have all of these processes in place. And so I think that people overreacted a little bit to the article, but I do think it like has important call outs on like how the implementation is and like where we're spending the money and like all of those things that we can touch on.
Yeah. So the report is called like the GenAI divide, the state of AI. And the divide they're talking about is like the difference between the companies that are actually getting the returns versus the companies that are not. And in specifically the 5% that are actually getting the returns, they say that the integration of AI into their company looks very highly specific and tailored to that company. And so a lot of the vendors that they chose, there are vendors that they like co-built with and said, hey, as the vendors were like maybe the vendor is like a startup, for example, like they were a design partner and they made this like product very tailored to that company. And it acts more like a BPO rather than a SaaS. So not like a one size fits all thing. And like the core reason why the MIT study alludes to in terms of why it's more of a BPO is because a lot of AI tools lack memory. And so it lacks personalization to the stack and the workflow that they're working in. And so the middle layer of tools that are not very context aware tend to perform very similarly to like your personal GPT account, for example. And so then what they were saying in the study is that I think like 90% of employees use their personal GPT accounts for work. So even though 40% of companies say they purchased an official LLM subscription, a large number of these employees are using personal AI tools for work tasks. It shows that people really like the ChatGPT interface of it not having to think about anything but just like the text you're inputting into this box, and getting a pretty good like result or feedback loop from that.
Yeah, I
So
feel
I
like
thought
it's
that was
also like the first thing that people use. For example, like there's so many companies, especially at the Fortune 500, that are pushing Copilot. And I actually think that's probably like the biggest point of friction is that people don't want to use Copilot, but because they're already on the Microsoft stack, it's like included in everything. And so they're like, oh, well, we already have it. We're not going to pay for like an enterprise ChatGPT subscription. And so then people go to their personal accounts to use because they want to use ChatGPT in particular, and they don't want to use like Copilot. I think that probably is like
Part of
where the biggest discrepancy is coming from, because everyone in the Fortune 500 uses Microsoft.
But then theoretically, doesn't that increase the ROI? Like if someone's using their personal ChatGPT account, it's like no additional investment for the company, and they're becoming like more productive at work.
Yeah,
Which should,
but it's not ROI on the things that they've invested in, because like the employees are like buying their own subscriptions.
So the study is like able to measure like what was pulled directly from like the business's account versus the personal's account.
No, it was all done based on user interviews.
Because I would assume like personal ChatGPT in like that type of a methodology ends up getting counted in ROI. Like there were like these quotes that were like, oh, it's more to like enhance individual people's productivity, like with them using ChatGPT, maybe a lot of times their personal account, rather than like companies' return on investment. And that's like what confused me about the study, because like to me, an individual's productivity is like directly tied to a company's earnings.
I think it is, but they were specifically looking at like what the $30 to $40 billion was spent on. And so like that wouldn't be included in that, even though it is included in like their personal productivity.
That makes sense.
You know what's crazy is I when I was reading this report is I like thought about how we did the Glean interview, and in that interview we referenced the Glean report, which basically says the exact same stat, but they came out with it like a year ago, where they were like 90-something% of CIOs are not seeing any return on their investment in AI.
Yeah, Glean is like a really good example of like completely custom AI. Like, I don't know, the company I'm at doesn't use it, but my understanding of it is like it makes everything searchable for you, right? So then things are like very custom.
Yeah. But like I was just thinking about how like 6 months.
Oh, the stat is already out there.
The data was already there, but like that report didn't go viral, but it said the same thing.
Probably because it was from like a
company.
Well,
it's also like news cycles.
Yeah, it's news cycles.
No, but I think like because we're podcasting, right? And we're like very tapped into news cycles and media now, you start to notice like illogical things. Like for example, when like DeepSeek's first model dropped, there was like no reaction.
And we noticed that.
No, but we were just like, oh, no one's talking about this, but it's like pretty cool. Like we should talk about it. And then like everyone crashed out like 2 months later.
Yeah.
And then when everyone was crashing out, I was like, wait, like there's a new DeepSeek model that came out, but it was like what? It was the reasoning model. Yeah, and it wasn't like a lot of the stuff people crashed out about, which was like they're able to make a pretty good model without having access to like GPUs or like very limited access.
We had literally
it was all already true.
Yeah, it was like it was true in their previous model, and we had literally talked about how are they like getting these returns, and then we were like, oh, maybe it's just like because they're smarter.
Yeah,
And
but
then Alexander Wang was like, no, they stole our GPUs.
yeah, but like we talked about this even like among the three of us, which is that I feel like GPT-5, there were like a lot of expectations riding on it, both by like the tech community that's like very in the weeds of all of these like model releases, and by like the general public, because I think like the general public probably places the most emphasis on OpenAI's launches, and they still have like the most brand recognition, and so like I think that's like why this got covered that way.
I think it times really well with the GPT-5 launch.
Because there's already so much negative sentiment.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I wouldn't have predicted that GPT-5 would have that kind of impact. And it wasn't like from not even being bad, just not being great.
Like what impact?
Like of everyone just becoming more bearish on AI in like multiple different ways.
We can get into the job section of the MIT report. So they said that there was like a lack of layoffs. Like many companies have maybe frozen hiring, but they haven't necessarily laid off employees. You can take this both ways, but I would take this positively, because like what we're seeing is that humans are intelligent.
I would take this positively.
But the myth that they're trying to debunk is that AI will replace most jobs in the next few years, and it's found that there are limited layoffs from GenAI, and there's no consensus among executives as to hiring levels over the next 3 to 5 years. So executives are not thinking about replacing jobs with AI that aggressively.
I was talking to one of our friends that's like at a really big tech company. That just did massive layoffs, and he was like, it's so interesting because like all the media coverage of this company doing these massive layoffs like always talks about AI, which is like true. Like it's like if like Microsoft or like any company does like thousands of layoffs like in this day and age, there's like something about AI in the article.
Yeah.
But like he was like, what does it actually have to do with AI? Because like first of all, they're laying off at lower rates than like previous years.
Yeah.
They always do this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's a little cyclical.
Yeah,
Or it's a little cyclical, but like whatever. But then they're just like laying off non-revenue generating businesses, or like businesses that are not doing as well as expected, which is like the same way layoffs are always decided. It's not really like, oh, these specific roles can get replaced by AI, which I feel like I've only heard of friends at startups saying that the companies are doing that.
I was just gonna say, I feel like freezing hiring makes sense, because like when Salesforce did that first, I think everyone was like freaking out about it, but it's like, if you don't know what the potential of AI is going to be, like why would you continue to hire people just to lay them off?
Yeah. And in this study, MIT also talked about their project Iceberg, which is basically a quantitative context for potential automation. So what they do is they look at like the current AI tools out there and look at what they can do. And then they map that to different skills. And then they take the job economy and the types of jobs, also map that to skills, and then try to figure out what is the current automation potential. And they say basically like the tip of the iceberg is 2.27% of U.S. labor value, and that is about 2.3 trillion in labor value, affecting 39 million positions. But these are like blue collar positions, maybe like cashiers, for example. Nothing related to like any white collar positions, which is what everyone in AI is like always freaking about. I thought it was a cool report, and they're actually revamping this report, so maybe we'll have their researcher on the pod with us to discuss it further. But it's just the first metric to be able to track automation for the potential of agentic AI. It actually gives you ground truth in what's possible today with the current abilities. And the idea is that there's actually like 2.27% of US labor value is huge, but enterprises are still slow to adopt AI and agent systems, or agent companies are not building correctly.
Yeah, and then everyone talking about hiring being frozen also led to a lot of people talking about Meta freezing hiring, specifically like in their AI division. And I think that made headlines just because like Meta's AI hiring and their like millions, billion-dollar packages have like already been in headlines for so long that like anything that happens in Meta's AI division now is like so closely watched. But basically, they announced that they're freezing AI hiring, and then they also announced like a little bit about the structure of their AI org, which makes sense because I feel like they have kind of like slightly haphazardly assembled this group of like really successful people, and I feel like there definitely is potential, but they clearly need to like organize it, since like it happened kind of inorganically, I would say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so there's 4 AI groups, and I think this is like the 4th time they've reorganized it in like the last half a year, which is kind of crazy. But there's TBD Labs, which is the one run by Alexander Wang, probably the one that'll get like talked about the most, and like the llama model and everything is under that. Then there's the product team, and that's run by Nat Friedman, who's the former founder and CEO of GitHub. There was some conversation about if he'd be reporting to Alex.
Yeah, I know. Everyone was talking about that. It was so funny.
It seems like no.
Wait, I don't know, because like a lot of people were like, it seems like Nat is gonna report to Alex, and everyone was like, that's like so shitty if he is.
But like I think that they'll focus probably like there are some tools like WhatsApp, Instagram that like will definitely have AI, but I feel like they'll focus a lot probably on putting the llama models into glasses. And then there's the infrastructure team, which is led by Aparna Ramani, which is cool. A woman.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that.
Woman.
I was like, I know an Aparna means woman, but
Yeah. And Meta is currently building data centers in Middle America that are like the size of Manhattan, which is like insane.
They're competing with like Tesla on or I guess Elon on like all the data centers.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. No, they're building a huge data center.
I think theirs is actually bigger. I forgot the name of it, but there's like Elon's facility in Texas, I think, or something like that. And Meta's is supposed to be bigger than that one, which is crazy.
And Elon's facility was built in like 100 days or something.
That one.
That was so crazy. Yeah.
And then finally, there's
guys, it's 8 a.m. The music in this room starts at 8 a.m. We'll be back. And then what's the last one?
And then the last one is the FAIR Lab, which is focused on like research. And this kind of reminds me of Google's like moonshots. They had a moonshots lab, right?
Yeah, it was called like X.
Yeah.
The Moonshot.
The Moonshot
Project?
Factory.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. So it's found that one's going to be run by Yan LeCun, who is like considered one of the really important figures in AI. And it's going to be like net new research. And that research is going to then like work with TBD Labs. Like the way I see it is it's like, the research group is going to feed into the AI group, which is going to feed into the product group. And then it's like all going to be supported by the infrastructure group.
Yeah.
And I think the labs group seems like it's the most important, but maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're all important because you need the infra to support the research, to support the models. Like it's all super intertwined. And then going into the next section of the MIT paper that we wanted to talk about was on like how much money is being spent based on like division. So we saw that like 50 to 70% of AI budgets went to sales and marketing pilots, which I thought was really high. It's like higher than I thought it would be. And the paper basically calls out that like the real cost savings are in back office functions. And because 50 to 70% of their current budgets are going towards sales and marketing, that might like be one of the reasons why we're not seeing this like ROI that they're expecting.
Yeah, and in the user interviews they found was that it was easier to argue for a sales/marketing AI tool because you can easily be like, okay, this tool basically ups my outbound generation by X amount, or literally I close deals faster. And it's an easier metric attribution versus like back office automation is like harder to measure in general. It's like when you're on an infrastructure project as an engineer and you're like, how did you impact? You're like, and you like kind of like pull things together. But like business impact on dollar business impact is like always harder to measure in the back office, like on the back office type of tools. And so as a result, you see this like bias on the POCs that are won essentially.
Yeah.
I would say also, I feel like a lot of these sales and marketing AI tools have like pretty bad reviews. Like not to say like I personally have like used all of these in depth, and like I think a lot of these companies maybe will succeed long term, but for example like Icon, which had like a super viral product launch being like will help with like marketing and like generate like AI videos and stuff, like a lot of people when actually using it that like I heard of were like, oh, it doesn't really work and like it's not close enough to what we need. And then after that like they basically just kind of pivoted into like a typical UGC agency model and kind of changed their entire business model. And then like obviously there's other sales tools as well, but I do wonder like as everyone employs the same like outbound sales tools and like same practices of like being able to like search notes like quickly, like it probably has like diminishing returns on like how many more
for sure, because like
sales you're doing.
At some point like the table stakes are going to be like, are you doing personalized AI messages? And if you're not, like your success rate is going to be low. It's like it becomes an even playing field all over again.
Yeah. And then like on the back office point, for example, in healthcare, which is like the industry I'm in, like it's like a $7 trillion industry in this country. And everyone always says like 2 trillion or 3 trillion of that is all like administrative tasks, which is like a huge amount. And so it's like things like chart notes, like messages between like doctors and patients, all of these things. And a lot of those are not billable things. Like it's not billable time. So it's not necessarily directly tied to revenue.
Yeah.
But it's still like
Time they're spending
time.
on it.
Yeah. It would be like huge returns. So I do think like, I guess if I was running a company, I would focus more on that.
Yeah. They even called out in the report that like wins that they saw for companies that were positive on their return was that $2 to $10 million annually was saved in document processing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of like legal stuff. Like,
Yeah.
That's probably a big one.
Yeah. So actually the report called this out for like legal tools. The things you can measure on is like fewer compliance violations or like better workflows, but that's not something that you see within a month. Yeah. Like you don't see like compliance violations within a month. Those are things that like take time to bake. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder how you measure that. But it's almost like you have to take that leap of faith.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like the conclusion is that maybe they're not seeing it because of like the types of tasks that they're automating right now and like using AI, and like part of it is just like how it's being deployed and like integrated into their entire flow. And I thought an interesting point on this was like the misalignment piece, because when you talk about these workflows, so many of them could like inherently be a broken process already. And the thing about AI is that like it'll enhance any like incorrectness or misalignment that you have. It's like a really slippery slope because now you also don't have a person in the loop to catch any of those things.
Or you have to have a reliable way to measure correctness in these workflows in order to like know that your AI is not like slipping. Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary for me personally.
Yeah.
I have to know how everything is going.
Yeah. But it seems like the overall conclusion from the paper is that like where AI stands today is that it is the models are smart and they provide these like really good first passes for whatever thing that you're working on, but because they don't have context or they lack memory features, they actually aren't able to be that helpful or really replicate what a human is. And this goes into like the further debate of whether or not continual learning is needed. So like a refresher is that continual learning is the idea that when a model is working with a human or being used, it's updating its weights real time. So it'll know like, oh, I made a mistake here. So therefore I'm going to learn after this mistake and like update my weight, because it's like training and inference time are basically now the same thing at that point. And this kind of leads to memory, because the idea is that if you're able to do this, like maybe you can bake memory now into the weights of these models. And so now you can have like a personal AI model for you as you start to learn, as it starts to learn who you are. It like learns what you like and bakes that into its like weights of the model, for example. And so the idea is like, given what like AI is going towards today, we're just training on data. We're training on scaling pre-training data, RLHF, which is like human feedback loop data, but we're not changing anything algorithmically about these models. The question is like, do we need to have a scientific breakthrough and get a continual learning model to be able to see all of these returns that everyone's been hoping for? Yeah. Or can we get returns out of the current capabilities we have today? And I think the paper is trying to say, yes, you can get returns. It's just like how you build it. And
yeah, like they're not doing it right now.
Exactly, yeah.
I agree with that.
I feel like our models could get better at memory without getting better at continual learning.
Memory, as it looks like today, is like increasing the context window. So how much information can you pass to the model at once? So the way memories work in applications right now is like the context window might be like 1 million tokens. And so like, let's say you're like in a thread and you're like talking to the chatbot. Memory is as simple as like passing the entire chatbot thread through every time you're asking the next question. When you're like, for example, saying, okay, tell me the differences between product A and product B. And then you ask a follow-up question and you're like, why does that happen? It's like, and why does that happen has no context to it. The reason why I can answer is because you're passing the entire thread through. And so like a lot of researchers are arguing that actually because the context windows are getting so long, it feels very close to memory, maybe that's enough. And maybe like we need to start, maybe the product like the AI product layer companies just need time to catch up to be able to like push those features back to the consumers.
Yeah, I feel like for the types of things we're talking about and for like enterprise value gains, that is enough. And I don't think that you need more than that. I think like AGI, ASI, all of those conversations, like, yes, you probably do need continual learning to achieve that. But I think in the context of this paper, I do think that you don't need that.
Yeah. And I mean, I would agree with you. There's this one like now commentator, but he was a researcher at a time. His name is Nathan Lambert. I always refer to him. He wrote this blog post, and I pulled out a quote from it, which is, human intelligence has long been the inspiration for AI, but we have long surpassed it being the mirror we look to for inspiration. So essentially what it means is like, we built transformers back in the day and neural networks to match how we think brains work. But we have now stopped looking at how brains work to like really progress the future of these models. And he's alluding to the fact that like AI intelligence.
Is that true though? Like, would memory be like a good example of us trying to replicate the way a brain works?
Yeah, but not the way memory works. Like, we haven't been able to replicate the way memory works. But like neural networks is like based on neurons. If that makes sense.
Like, basically we're building memory and not basing it off of like the neuroscience behind humans' actual memory.
Yeah. And the idea is, and like he's trying to say that continual learning is closest to the idea of human intelligence. Like, because what's happening is like, we don't really know too much about the brain, but we believe continual learning and human intelligence are more similar. But like maybe the AI intelligence that we need to strive for is actually very different than like the way human intelligence works. Similar to like when someone first built a plane, we actually thought we were going to build wings for ourselves, but we ended up building planes. Like we were,
I want wings.
Like we thought like the way that we could fly is by like replicating a bird. Yeah. But then we built a plane, right?
Imagine if we were all birds.
So yeah, I don't know. That's just something to like leave you guys with.
Wait, so sorry. Wait, so is the take that we initially based AI off of like the way our actual neurons fire, which is like neural networks? Okay, yeah, that's a basis. Then it's like now we're working on memory in AI, and we are not basing it on the way human memory works. Is that because A, we think there would be a better approach, B, we don't understand our own memory well enough, or C, this is actually the wrong approach?
Your mind's getting tested right now, multiple choice.
He is. So it's actually not commentating on how we're approaching the memory problem. It's commentating. Commentating. Sorry, it's not commenting. Oh my god. So his quote. Okay. So his quote.
You know who has a memory problem? Me.
Wait, Annika has a major memory problem, and it's actually becoming an
shocking
issue.
I don't remember anyone.
She doesn't remember anyone. Like literally, they have like no relevance to my life, but like not relevance to her life either. Honestly, just like people, and like she has no idea who they
Priya
are.
and I go out and someone introduces themselves to me, I pretend I know them, and then I turn to Priya, and Priya has to whisper in my ear like, Berkeley.
Oh my god, we were out the other day and this guy goes up to Annika and is like, oh my god, hi Annika, it's been so long. And she's like, blank stare. And I'm like, obviously I don't know who this is. And then Priya's like, hey. And
dude, because this always happens, and it's so awkward.
That made it sound like you couldn't say it because there's something like romantic, but which I just want to clarify there wasn't.
Oh yeah,
no,
it's literally just a random people.
Yeah, it's just it's not like,
and it's like at some point over the last 7 years we've seen them
literally,
and it's like like I remember them, but Annika doesn't.
Wait, I'm like the only.
She's like, I've never seen that face in my entire life. And then Priya's like, yes, you have, and like pulls up a text thread with them, and it's like, oh yeah.
It's honestly getting problematic.
Yeah.
Anyways, war.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing we wanted to talk about is Russia and Ukraine, because there have been some pretty high profile meetings this month. Trump meeting Putin, and then Trump meeting multiple European leaders, including Zelensky, Ukraine's president. And a little bit of background on the war in Ukraine right now. So Russia's currently occupying about 20% of Ukraine, and this all started in 2014 with Russia trying to annex Crimea. Then in 2022 is when the full-scale invasion started, and that started with the Donbass region in Russia, where they've been like backing militants and then sending their own troops. And there have been like hundreds of thousands of deaths. A lot of them are Russian soldiers, but obviously there have been civilian casualties as well, and millions of Ukrainians have been displaced. So there's also a lot of like really horrific violence against Ukrainian people in these regions. Like children have been sent from Ukraine to Russia, basically like deported. And yeah, I don't know. Putin is like a pretty vicious political leader. Like he like poisons and murders his opposition, and basically it seems will like not leave this war without some type of win.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think he made very clear with Trump too.
Yeah, it's like the first time borders are redrawn with force since like World War II.
And like one of the questions I had was like back in 2022, like what were like the main points of contention that like led to this? Like I know there's a lot of like political instability and there's been like back and forth. And like the two major things is like one what we were just talking about, which is like Putin doesn't believe that Ukraine has like the right to be fully independent, and so he's like trying to invade it. And then the other point was that it seemed like Ukraine was getting closer to the West and like potentially would even like join NATO.
Yeah. Basically, NATO has Article 5 in it. Like, everyone signed on to Article 5, which basically means that, like, when you go to war with, like, one country in NATO, like, it triggers basically, like, a security guarantee from the U.S. and other countries.
Yeah, like an attack on one is an attack on all. And so then all allies are forced to attack all. And so the idea of Ukraine joining NATO is highly contended because they actually don't want Ukraine to join NATO, because at that point, U.S. and all other European nations will have to launch a war against Russia. Yeah. And then that could lead to World War III.
Yeah. And quickly on the headlines of like, okay, what actually happened like in the last couple of weeks. So Trump and Putin met in Anchorage, Alaska, which is actually not that far from Russia. Like Alaska is like not that far. And that's why like Alaskan political leaders for a while used to talk about like if like Russia's like long missiles could like reach Alaska, because you can actually see Russia from Alaska.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. Yeah. So they met on August 15th, which is like 10 days ago now. And basically like Trump has always kind of bragged that he has a very good relationship with Putin, which is not really a flex. And he's like, this would have like never happened if I was president, like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I feel like they just like each other because they're both authoritarian, but it doesn't really like help them agree on anything. Trump has been saying, I want a ceasefire. And that's kind of his like usual like art of the deal vibe. Like he's like, I'm going to like strike a deal. And he was like, yeah, like people are saying like, I'm not going to make it to heaven with some of the things I've done, but like this might be the one thing that like gets me there. He's like 7,000 people are dying. Like this might be the thing that gets me there. So he like wanted a deal. Putin was like, no, like there's only going to be a deal if Ukraine agrees to cede territory. Then after that meeting, there was another meeting that was like Trump and European leaders in the US. And it was like, I guess kind of comical, because the last time Zelensky met like Trump and JD Vance, he basically just got like bullied on national television.
Everyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
Like his suit got called ugly, and then JD Vance was like, have you ever thought about saying thank you? And he literally just got like big dicked.
Yeah.
And then basically this time he brought like every other European leader with him. I guess like their own little mini NATO that has no military spending power. Anyways. And then Trump was basically like, yeah, like I'll help you, but like I'm not going to send ground troops, because he doesn't like the idea of like us getting involved in international conflict that, you know, we're paying for, we're sacrificing lives. And like this isn't just a Trump thing. Like a lot of people are against against it. Like historically, like liberals even more than conservatives.
Yeah.
Trump just has like a little bit different reasoning, I would say.
Yeah. Although like with the meeting with Zelensky, I saw that like the U.S. did say that we would provide like some security guarantees, and they're now like drafting up what exactly that'll be. So like we don't know what that is yet, because they're in the process of like figuring it out. But it was basically like NATO's off the table, like for both sides to even like come to a grounds where they'll even talk to each other.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's basically like Putin saying, I need some territory, and everyone's saying NATO's off the table. Like, we'll give you some security guarantees, but it's not going to be NATO. And then, like, with those two things in place, we can get them to a place where, like, they can at least talk to each other, because they're not even doing that right now.
I think our security guarantee will probably just be like air support. Like,
That's what Trump offered.
yeah. But then like to wrap it up, to like Priya's point, like Zelensky basically keeps saying he wants to meet with Putin, which makes sense. And then Russian's foreign minister, whose name is Lavrov, basically said there will be no meeting unless Russia's presidential agenda, which is basically like different territorial concessions and withdrawal from NATO, like Priya said, is met. And then like Putin keeps being like, yeah, like I can't meet with like Zelensky, I can't meet with you until like there's an agenda. Like, what are we even going to talk about? And it's like, what do you mean? Maybe the war that's been going on for the last 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Putin knows that he's being obviously completely unreasonable.
Yeah.
And like, he's just like, oh my God, they're like an avoidant, anxious relationship. Like Zelensky's anxious and Putin's avoidant.
And it seems like Ukraine doesn't want to back down. Like they're still seeking like more like military and like monetary support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, they need it.
Yeah.
Even though like everyone in Ukraine is like wants the war to be over, because it's like been going on for so long.
Yeah.
But I saw this like one chart, and it was like over time less and less people want to be fighting this war.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, because there's like a sense of like national pride, and it's like you obviously want to like protect, but at some point when you're seeing like the level of casualties that we're seeing in this situation, it's like at some point you just have to like come to a peace deal. And that was like the other interesting thing that I thought. Like when they got into it, it was a ceasefire. But then by the end of it, it was basically like there's either going to be a peace deal or there's not.
Yeah.
Like there's no ceasefire.
Yeah. It largely hinders on the Donbass region being handed over officially.
Well, also, like, how do you have a ceasefire? Because, like, if Russia's occupying
Donbass,
Ukrainian land
Yeah.
and they're literally, like, raping and killing people, like, is a ceasefire, like, the troops just stop doing that? Because then that's basically, like, giving them the territory back.
Yeah.
No, that is, like, exactly what happens. Like, in the past, when what's happened is it becomes, like, a demilitarized zone. Yeah. And then, like, no one gets it, but then, like, whoever's there kind of it's just this, like, weird...
Yeah,
it's like
a power
exactly
vacuum.
what you're saying.
Yeah. And then
it's exactly what you're saying. So it's, like, that's why... coming out of it, they were like, actually, no, like, we don't need to do a ceasefire. We need to just, like, figure out the situation.
Also, like, Russia is just going to violate the ceasefire, and then it's like, there's no point of having one.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong answer on, like, if Putin should be given, like, any territory or not, because it's like, you want to say no, ideally, because, for example, like, famously, it's always brought up, like, that's how, like, Hitler started expanding when he was, like, given Austria and, like, other land. And it's like this idea of appeasement that sometimes backfires pretty heavily. I don't really see Putin being emboldened to like invade other parts of Europe. Like I think Russia's military is like really old. I feel like they're a dying global power. They're not like in like the AI race, but I do think it's like obviously it's like a bad precedent to set. But I don't know, like I see how it maybe could be better if you like give a small amount of territory and then find like actual peace, if that's even possible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I would say I probably agree with you on that. I will say I think like my take is that Ukraine will wait at least till end of 2025 to broker a peace deal, because right now they have what's called their FP5 Flamingo missile, which is essentially this missile that should be able to strike Russian energy infrastructure. So the whole thing with Russia is that they're spiking the prices of their oil.
They're like the third biggest producer, right?
Yeah, they're like the third biggest producer of oil. And so Ukraine is now trying to go directly after their oil. And I think they already hit
like
it once. Yeah.
They hit 10 of them in the last month, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like it's been like a new tactic of
Yeah,
theirs.
Ukraine has like honestly held their own against Russia in a pretty impressive way.
Yeah. And so a large number of them should be available by the end of this year. And this seems like their last standing chance to be able to like actually hurt Russia. And so if this missile is successful, then there could be a potential renegotiation of that land. However, Russia has said that like they're not worried about it because they have their own missiles to intersect, and that it won't be a big issue by the end of 2025.
Yeah, Russia's oil revenue also, like as of last month, has dropped 27% year over year because Western nations have like what's called a price cap on their oil, where they basically like say that Russia's only allowed to sell to these nations that have like agreed to this at like basically about 15% less than like market rate. And so Russia's still selling to China and India, but then when they sell to like most of Europe and stuff, they're supposed to be selling at like around, let's say like $30 a barrel, which still is like decent profit margins because I think it costs around $15 a barrel, but it's like way lower than what like the Saudis are selling their oil at.
Yeah.
Like I think oil is around like $60 a barrel.
It is.
So it's like half the price, assuming the numbers like fluctuate a little bit month to month, but that's like the TLDR. And it's supposed to like, these oil price caps are supposed to work alongside sanctions, which have been going on for like 10 years at this point. And like the main goal of sanctions is to like freeze the assets of Russian oligarchs, because it is like a country very much run by elites. And there's literally sanctions specifically targeted at like making Putin's quality of life harder. But they also like find ways around it. And they have like a decent amount of like allies around the world, like China and like even a little bit India.
Yeah. Ukraine striking the energy facilities, though, I think will, like, I think they can have a big impact if they like keep going at the rate that they're at right now, because in the last month alone, they've already affected more than 10% of Russia's capacity, which is like a lot. And Russia is going to other regions. I think it was like Belarus and other places, because they are seeing a shortage based on these attacks. So I feel like it does have the power to like cause actual damage.
Yeah. So maybe there's a path there where like Russia does agree to a treaty without land, but like no NATO, but also no land. Yeah. So where they were 10 years ago.
The second order effects of like the oil prices being very high is that it hurts the European economy. So pre-war, Russia supplied approximately 40% of the EU's total natural gas imports, with like Germany specifically being the largest energy consumer. And then since 2022, the gas prices surged by 180%, and oil and coal increased by 40 and 130% respectively. And so people thought that the GDP growth would decline and we would see the stock market crash. Well, now we haven't seen the European stock market crash, which is because the defense stocks have been propping it up. And so if we see a ceasefire, like, it's unclear what'll happen, because like, then oil will come down, it'll help the economy, but then the defense stocks could tumble, which could also potentially create a mini recession for the Europe.
I feel like there will continue to be updates for years to come.
This is the first time I think we covered the Russia and Ukraine war on the pod, and so I was doing a general like historical refresh on like what happened, and I was like, wow, it's all so simple. Like, Russia wants land, and like we just don't do that anymore as a world. Like, you know, like we don't take over like land like that anymore. And so like that's why everyone's like willing to help Ukraine.
Wait, guys, it was so funny. So like we all share like one YouTube account, right, for like Get the Check to like post.
My God.
And like when you go to like look at it, you can see like the history, and it was like Russia Ukraine war explained for kids. It was like so funny.
Literally the other day I was watching this video called How to Get Cheated On, which makes me seem like really down bad, but the context was it was like Wizard Liz's video, and I like follow her content, and she's like really like fun. I don't know, like she's entertaining. And she like her husband cheated on her and she made this video, but like I just like was watching it, and then like it's usually Maya watching YouTube, because I'm not a YouTube kid, but Maya is. And so then Priya thought that Maya was watching it, but then Priya deduced that it was me and not you, because the video was watched all the way through, and she was like, Maya doesn't have the attention span.
Yeah, you
don't.
You watch like half the videos, and then I was like, also it was like a 40-minute video watched all the way through of this girl talking, and like Maya likes like vlogs. Like I was just like,
so like the only reason my ADHD got through that video is because I was falling asleep. So like I fell asleep to that.
That's so
I fell
funny.
asleep to How to Get Cheated On.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, we just know way too much about each other.
No, I got sick one day, and Priya like just like screenshotted the history and sent it in the group, and I was like, fuck, I just got off.
It's like funny.
No, it is really funny, because the stuff I watch is like not entertaining.
Well, it's just like
to anyone else but me.
I just like what people watched 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I like never stopped watching it. It's like my comfort zone.
No, that's valid.
No,
That's
that makes
valid.
sense.
Yeah,
Going on to our fan-loved segment, Get the Check.
Yeah, people have literally stopped me on the streets and been like, the best part of the pod is this segment.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, are you serious?
No, you guys know I never get recognized in public. It's happened once. No, wait. Oh
Priya and I
my.
get recognized because we're always walking together.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. The three of us were all at the same bar,
Yeah,
and like
only Priya and I
and
got-
only Priya and Annika got recognized.
And then, you know, at that bar, one of the guys was like, oh, is it bad to say Priya's the main girl? And then Annika and Maya sometimes bounce off her ideas. And I was like, it's not bad to say, but like, I was like, we were like, he was like, that's like like, she's like the leader, right? And we're like, no, we all kind of do it together.
Yeah, no, I think
That's
it's
so
like you
funny.
hide. It's like the same thing as the solid core thing. Like,
yeah.
at Balboa, she's always like inside in a corner in a dark alley. Like you won't see her.
I barely even get into Balboa, first of all.
No, but like me and Annika like walk around. Like we like do laps, and you just like sit in the corner. So okay, moving on to our Get the Check segment that is fan loved, but not because anyone comes up to Maya. 8 Sleep raised $100 million to accelerate development of their AI sleep agent and AI roadmap. And if you don't know what 8 Sleep is, it's basically this like sleep tech company where they have a mattress cover and it collects like all of your biometric data, and then you can adjust like the elevation and temperature of your sleep. It started out like manually, and then now it like adjusts to your body, and like long term they're building out this like sleep agent that can like proactively optimize your sleep. But it's this like really high caliber Elon Zuck like tech billionaire circle product.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sense that they like use it. Yeah. And it was founded in 2014, so it's been around for a while, and they're really known for changing the branding around mattresses, where like they brand themselves as like basically similar to how like a health tech wearable would brand themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the basis of their argument is that many Americans have sleep problems. So approximately 50 to 70 million Americans suffer from some sort of sleep disorder. And 35% of Americans regularly get less than the recommended amount of sleep, which, by the way, it's 8 hours for men, but I think like 9 to 10 hours for women. And then
Getting 10 hours of sleep.
Just
No
another
one-
way women get screwed over.
yeah. Well, the 8-hour study was done on men, and then they finally did one on women, and they found that women need more sleep.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so
Thanks for including us.
so the entire mattress industry is obviously centered around this sleep problem and how to make your sleep better. But 8 Sleep took a new crack at it, and they don't sell mattresses; they just sell, like Priya said, these pods and covers that attach to it. And so, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and their sleep agent that they're now working on with all of this new money, like I was saying earlier, it collects your biometric data, and then similar to like the idea of a digital twin that we've talked about with like Palantir, they're going to simulate thousands of digital twins based on like the data that they collect about you to figure out like how to best optimize your sleep based on like what we know about sleep. And so the transition that they're trying to go from is like reactive tracking to proactive tracking and like simulated intervention. And so they've started trying to do the sleep optimization for like a few different medical things as well. So like they just developed like a hot flash mode. So like for women going through menopause, they're able to like regulate your body temperature and like everything a lot better. And then they're also planning to do like more in that medical space. So like they specifically called out sleep. Sorry.
I don't know what you're laughing.
They specifically called out sleep apnea and like
Sorry.
Take a deep
We
breath.
just have a friend that got it's not funny, but we have a friend that got sleep apnea like at a really young age. And so now
and like he travels around a little case.
I don't have that person as a friend.
But he does need to carry around a little sleep case, and so I see how something like an 8 Sleep would really be
I'm crying.
but like
Sorry.
how is Bria's literally crying.
No, like,
I know, oh my god. Wait, you haven't seen it though.
I know.
haven't seen
My
it like I've
grandparents
seen it.
use them. I was like,
Wait, look at her. I've never seen her like that. She's like, She's crying.
Like, I'm crying too.
You guys are both crying.
It's just too funny. Like,
No, it's so funny.
I'm not.
Okay, sorry.
No, like,
Sorry, I
sleep
got like
apnea-
really derailed there. I started crying.
But by the way, like when we laugh at things, I hope you guys know like we don't think medical conditions are funny.
I think we just have to cut it all out.
Wait, that's fine. No one even gets this late in the episode, first of all. If you did, this was a little reward.
But yeah, basically they're planning to develop intelligent sleep intervention for sleep apnea. Okay, we're moving on. Stop looking at me. Yeah, and then they haven't said a valuation, but it's definitely not that high because basically in 2021 when they raised their C, it was 500 million, and they say that it's doubled since their last round, so like maybe they're around $1 billion. I mean, it's not like that high.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it would be similarly priced to like a wearable company, but they don't have nearly as much sales in wearables. The problem is their price point is too high for most consumers.
Yeah.
So their price is around $5,000 for a king size cover, with the Pod 5 Core being around $3,000, and their annual subscription costs around $400 for like essential features like sleep tracking. So it's like a really hefty investment. You can use your HSA money. I actually looked into that, but it's generally pretty out of touch for like most Americans, even upper income.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You also need to keep paying a subscription fee, and they like lock a lot of features behind the subscription fee, and that's like one of the things people complain about the most because like some of these things they're like it doesn't make sense for it to be behind a continual paywall. It is interesting, like I was actually talking to the founder of a wearable company like this week, and he was explaining to me how like you are storing a lot of the data and stuff on your servers, and so while it seems like, I don't know, slimy's the wrong word, but like to charge,
People are like, why do you need to charge a continuous? I'm already paying for hardware.
It's like there actually are like continual costs to wearables.
Yeah. It's like the whole like Aura Whoop conversations. Everyone's like, oh, if you get a Aura ring, you have to pay a subscription fee, but if you get a Whoop, like you don't have to. And people seem to make it like a really big deal. Because like
really?
I know it's like one of the biggest considerations that people have when buying the two, but it's like,
Wait, I thought Whoop was subscription as well, but Ultra Human is not.
oh, maybe it's that.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like, I don't know if it's like that deep. $400 is a lot. But,
$400 is a lot, especially like my mattress itself is just $400, and I've been using it for 3 years, and I probably will use it for another 2.
Yeah, it is definitely expensive.
Yeah, I think one is like they can definitely hit the people with deep, really big sleep problems and like want to invest in that, but to reach like mass adoption, they're gonna have to bring the price down. And I actually wonder, like I couldn't find a lot of information about this, but I wonder like what their cost to like create the thing is, because I can't imagine it being that high. And I feel like a lot of the cost is to cover like their R&D development costs, and I'm like, I think they're at a point where they actually could stop investing in R&D and then just bring down the cost of like the pod and the like cover, and then maybe like sell a lot more. But I'm sure they have like way better analysts internally that have decided that that's like not profitable.
Yeah. Or it's like a reputation thing too. Like I feel like they kind of pride themselves in a way on like being this like culty brand that these like tech billionaires like. And like not that they don't want it to get into more households, because obviously you have to balance like your brand reputation with like actual revenue, because that's what matters to your business, especially for businesses that are like VC backed. But at the same time, I think they do want to kind of like walk that line of being exclusive.
For sure, but I think like you at some point you do the transition into like mass consumer. Like I feel like Aura had that culty brand, Whoop had that culty brand, and like now they're like now it's like expanding a lot more.
That's true.
So I think like the point of building that culty brand is that like at some point you bring the cost down, or like the brand is like that hype enough that people are willing to pay that cost, and there's like other competitors. So I think the problem that 8 Sleep has is that there's like not other there's not other similar competitors in the market. So like in the fitness wearables market, there's so much of a fitness wearables market that it's like, oh, everyone has something, so maybe I should go buy something. That's so that like Aura and Whoop competing help both each other, because it's like everyone wants a piece of the pie, and then consumers are like, oh, now I should like have all these options to choose from, and everyone's having one, and so I should go get one. And I feel like because like 8 Sleep doesn't have like a comparable competitor to them, or they don't have like similar types of products in their ecosystem of like where they're sitting at, it's like people are not paying attention to that space in general and thinking that's something they should invest in.
Yeah.
So I feel like
sense.
a part of like them succeeding is like other startups entering that space some way. So like if someone were to come out and be like, oh, you don't need a pod, you just need a cover, and then it's an app or something like that, potentially. I don't
They
know.
also don't do like any influencer marketing that I see, which kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
Like I would
That's true.
assume that's
It's a
like the
good market.
perfect thing to give like
Like a LeBron.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or us.
Yeah.
Or us.
Or us. Oh yeah.
I do see
Yeah,
them
us, yeah,
sponsor.
for sure.
It is interesting. Like I do see them sponsor podcasts, which is like they'll sponsor tech podcasts. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's interesting they choose to do that versus have like Nara Smith or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have the 8 sleep. Like I
yeah.
feel like that like when people make like so many day in the life videos, why would you not have the 8 sleep in that versus like it's just linked in podcast descriptions? And I'm like, that's
Who
not
is
like
that
your
helping?
best form of
Yeah.
marketing for you.
Yeah. Like their go-to-market
This
strategy.
is free advice.
Yeah.
I feel like I would not invest, but not because I think they're gonna do badly, just because like I don't feel confident they'll do well.
I feel like if you talk to anyone who has an 8 sleep, they're like, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Like
Everyone does say that.
everyone actually believes it's worth the money.
I don't have friends that have 8 sleeps.
I have like a couple of coworkers. And so I'm like, you have the technology figured out. So like there's
Go make it accessible.
yeah, like you did the hard part. The go-to-market strategy is like just something that you have to figure out, and like I feel like they haven't been able to figure that out.
Yeah. I would write a little angel check to them.
I don't know.
I feel like I would do it because I want to be involved in it because it's cool more so than like I believe I'll make a ton of my money back.
Shoot, if I say like I wouldn't give their check, is that like ruin a sponsorship opportunity for us?
No.
No.
I
Okay.
think
Well,
Anyways,
anything else?
that's a wrap up.
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap
Bye,
for today.
guys.
Bye.